unconsciously obligating myself to whatever obligations that my parents
Mm.
are asking from me.
Yeah.
By doing that, I'm rejecting myself.
Yeah.
I'm rejecting my couple, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. I'm always rejecting them. If you're carrying that always, that self-rejection, you're going to send it back to the next generation. We're going to
Wow.
teach that sense of rejecting self-rejection over and over again. The cycle repeats. So what I would invite, I guess, is to think or to be aware, to the very least, that let's stop rejecting ourselves, right? Invest in ourselves, grow.
Yeah. Emerge Stories is a place where, as the name implies, you are going to hear stories. Stories from people all over the Philippines who have come from many different types of backgrounds, and especially people who have gone through struggles, people who have gone through the challenging parts of life. And I hope that these stories will relate for you in some way, that some of these stories will really land for you because these people have gone through probably just about the same thing you might be going through right now. Welcome back to Emerge Stories. This week, I am speaking to another good friend of mine. His name is Franz Garsula. He's originally from Dumaguete and Cebu, but now lives in Toronto, Canada. He is a certified life coach, specializing in authentic expression, reinvention, and shadow work. He helps individuals reinvent themselves by unraveling the gifts hidden by their shadows so that they can tap into their true potential as human beings. He is also the host of the Flow Goers podcast, where he shares personal insights, questions, understandings, and experiences of how to live life as who you authentically are. I hope that you guys, as always, will get something useful out of this. And remember, it is the relatability of these stories that makes all the difference in people's lives. So if this story seems like it might relate for someone who you know, please take a moment to send it to them, share it with them, help us spread the word, and give us feedback. Please comment, let us know how we're doing. What did you find useful, if anything? And as always, if you can like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, it will really help the content that we're creating to get to you. And thank you so much for being here. As always, let's jump into the conversation. Welcome, friends, to Emerge Philippines. I'm glad you're here and looking forward to this conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for inviting me for this interview.
Totally. And tell people, where are you right now? Because you're not in the Philippines.
Yeah, I was in the Philippines for a huge part of my life, like 28, no, 33 years of my life. And recently I just moved to Canada. This is where the universe sent
Nice. And you're in Toronto area, right?
me, Toronto.
In
Yeah,
Toronto. Nice. Very cool. I've known you now for what, 4 or 5 years, I think, or something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Awesome. I know some of your story. I'm sure I'm going to learn some new things today, and I'm excited for other people to hear your journey of how like personal growth has just become something that you've taken ownership of and that you've learned so much about yourself. And yeah, so let's start at the beginning and go back to, where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I grew up in Cebu, Philippines, and my childhood, all I can say was a nice childhood. Like we were, I could consider like myself or our family in that class of being poor back then because like we live in probably like a really small apartment at that time. And my parents were doing their best like to support us, to support our studies at that time and to really help us or educate us in as much as possible. And since they have that intention of educating us, they really worked hard to put me into a really nice school because if you're in a really nice school in the Philippines, then hey, like you're going to be intelligent. And then when you're going to be intelligent, you're going to graduate as a smart person and probably have a good job and be able to thrive or move up that ladder per se. So going back to my childhood, like my parents were really encouraging me to be smart. Uh, for some reason, it could be I'm smart, but for some reason I wasn't that smart because all I can remember when I was in elementary, like I compare myself constantly to my sister because my sister's getting this 90 grades most of the
Hmm.
times, and there's just like above 85 grades most of the time. I'm pretty sure a bunch of Filipinos could really relate to this. And she has a bunch of stars too, like every single grading. Like she has a purple star, a green star. I tend to compare myself to my sister a lot of times.
Okay.
And like I was studying in Colegio del Santo Niño. It's a really good school, but my parents were struggling to really pay for that school, and I really appreciate them a lot.
Your sister was in the same school?
Yeah,
Okay. And so tell us a little bit more about, like, how many siblings, by the way?
two siblings.
And
Like me,
so you have a sister and
yeah, and an elder sister. Like
two sisters.
my elder sister is growing up. I only live with my younger sister, and
Okay.
we know that I have an elder sister. Like when we visit to Dumaguete, because
Okay.
like she was born ahead of me.
I see. You didn't know you had an older sister until then?
I didn't know when I was still probably I know 7 or 8 when I knew that, hey, I have an elder sister. Let's play with her. Like when
Really?
she went to Dumaguete.
Interesting. Okay. And so you were the middle child, but you grew up mostly with
I'm the middle child.
your younger sister. And
Yeah.
then your younger sister was the one that you were in school with, and then she naturally was having better grades than you. And so,
She naturally is smart, really, like
okay.
really intelligent.
All right. And where did I mean, you decided to bring that up just now. So what did that lead to, or what was important about the way you were comparing yourself to your sister, or what did that lead to in your own mind?
And this is just what came up. Like I actually have pre-planned stories before this, but this is what came up for some reason in this interview. So let's just
Go.
go with this.
Sure.
But my growing up, I've been always comparing myself to my sister. It's like she's smart, and at the same time, she's my father always tells me, "Hey, make your sister win. Give way to your sister." Like when we play jackstones, I always try to make her win. But if I am tired of losing, I just cheat and just grab all the jackstones and hey, I win. So for some reason, like there's that part of me who feels wounded. Like, why do I have to always make my sister win? Why do I always have to give way to her? And there was even a time in high school when we're supposed to have this schedules to wash the dishes and to cook rice. It For some reason my father will always say, "Hey, it's your sister, so you're the kuya, you're the elder brother. You should do it." And growing up, it felt so unfair for me. Like, why is that? And I carried this sense of unfairness, and probably because of the lack of context when my father or like my family or the authorities back then are
Yeah.
telling to, "Hey, this is why we give way." But for that one, it's like a rejection of my needs. There's that part where were and they're teaching me something, but at the same time, like with the lack of context, it is received and hey, it's just giving way for nothing, just
S-
self-sacrifice or
So
self-abandon or
so your parents had reasons for why they were asking you what they were asking you, and whether or not you would
yeah,
agree with them now, whether you would totally agree with those reasons now or not, you didn't understand them then. And so when you're
yeah,
being
I
told to
never
do
understood them.
something, and then it just feels unfair. And I can totally relate to that. I think this is where so many traumas come from in when we're kids, is that something our parents or somebody else we love and trust does, or something they say to us, and then it's just very confusing. We don't understand the reason. If we understood it all the way, it wouldn't be traumatic at all, because we're like, oh, okay, that's why they're just grumpy today or whatever it is. So you had these things that were happening that you didn't understand, and then the story you're telling yourself is it's not fair. What do you think that led to for you? Where did that what did that turn into in your life?
It lacked context, right? Like growing up, like it's just this way of navigating through life or doing the dishes or the household chores of just giving way and making my sister do stuff. And it led me to like rebelling against my parents, right? Like I had this phase of rebellion towards my parents to a point wherein like they told me to study nursing because hey, you're quite good with memory, so like why don't you study nursing and then probably you'll be a nurse and be like this person abroad, like sending money to us from another country or something like that. But here, dog,
Okay.
I studied nursing like for more than a semester, and my heart just wanted to escape that course
Yeah.
because like I've done enough. Like growing up, I've been giving way to my sister, and now I'm giving way to them.
Yeah.
To I need to rebel. Like I'm giving away my dreams,
You're
what I
doing
want for myself.
you're doing
So
what
like,
other people want you to do at the expense of what you feel
yeah,
like you want.
yeah,
Did you
yeah.
have an Go ahead. What were your dreams?
The
Did you have
moment,
an idea what you actually did want?
yeah,
You said
yeah.
dreams.
I do remember I graduated on that night of my graduation. After all the lechon, the party, my parents told me, called me to a grotto of Mama Mary like behind me, and then my father was on the right side and my mother was on the left side. And then they asked me, like it was dark, and they asked me, Franz, what's going to be your course? I told them computer engineering because I like math. They knocked my head. No, you should take nursing. Like we've been telling you all this time from January to March, you should take nursing. And at that point, it reinforced that self-rejection and that rejection of me and the rejection of what I want to do. Hey, it's supposed to be like the trauma of rejecting me
Yeah.
kept on happening.
Feels like
Like
it's
it was
repeating.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was repeating. And yeah, like there goes the rebellion. Boom. I studied nursing, but for only one semester. And then the tuition fee, since I was trustworthy to them, they gave me money to pay the tuition. And since I was really good in computers, because I'm quite techy, I'm good with math. So like I was able to figure out with Photoshop and design and other things, and was maybe a bit vulnerable. Like I even my grades too. So like I edited the receipts, I edited everything, like every single thing to show to my parents that hey, I'm studying nursing. And now look at this. I have big grades
Yeah.
for more than a semester. And then they trusted me even more that on that summer court, there's this summer term when I really just went on playing computers. I'm playing computer games for the rest of the summer and
Yeah.
even up until the midnight too, and told them that, hey, I have this part-time job and this would help me with my studies too. I have this friends and whatnot. But little did they know that I was just playing Dota all of the times.
Th This
That was
reminds
complete
me.
rebellion.
Yeah, there were some times in my younger years that I was very much rebelled against what my parents wanted. But what I've learned about humans is that I very much believe that we thrive much more, we're so much healthier when we feel like the lives we're living, that we chose them. And the way that culture has been for a long time in many countries is where parents feel like it's their job to give their kids a good start in life and then help them make decisions. And what ends up happening is that as parents, we think we know what's best. We think we know what the path should be. And honestly, especially in today's world and as fast as it changes, I think that's just not true. I think parents don't actually know what's best, but also each individual human is different, and we can't prescribe what they should learn or what kind of work they should do because we don't know. Who are they? You don't even know yet. But parents, it's part of our heritage as humans that we try to tell other people what we think they should do. But I just don't think it works. And I realized deeply in my life, like I very much resented when other people when I was doing things that I was forced to do. And whether it's learning or it's a job or anything else, it's like you don't like it if somebody else told you to do it. And sometimes we just ignore it and do it anyway. And some of us just get to the point where we rebel. What are your thoughts on this? I feel like there's so many people in this country that can relate with some of these struggles and challenges. You mentioned the idea of obligation, where because you got sent to school, you feel this obligation and your parents are expecting you to go into a path that they often chose. They're trying to ask you, which one did you choose? But really, they're not asking you. They're trying to tell you, you should be a nurse because we want you to be a nurse because, and you mentioned the concept of obligation of probably working abroad, being a nurse and sending money home. So I'd love to just hear your thoughts at this point, looking back at the age you are, who you have become now. What are some of your thoughts on how people can navigate that kind of cultural tendency for parents to expect their kids to go into a path they want them to go into so that they can send money home and all the struggles that come with it? And what have you learned that you think you could share with people around that?
Like there are two paths, or I would probably say at this point of my life, I could say wisdom because there was this time wherein I say, hey, like I shouldn't send money at home, I mean, to my parents, or hey, if I succeed, it's not my obligation to do so to help my parents or whatnot, but or like to have this sense of independency, like other cultures, maybe when their kids graduate, like they're grown adults, right? They graduated and they have this job. So it's fine if they don't help their parents because like they are building this life. There's that path, right? Like when as an adult, you adult yourself. It's your an adulting 101. And your parents are doing their own adulting. They've done their job and there's they probably won't need something from you. There's that type of thinking or mindset, but it sends me to like this your question made me think about or reinforce the thought that hey, the value that we have in Filipinos of or debt of gratitude, and it's a deeply ingrained value because of another value that we also have, and that's what I mentioned about like when people are or when parents typically say things to their kids with very little context, very little understanding of what should be. Like for example, when my parents told me that hey, you should wash the dishes because you're the older brother. Since it has very little context, it just has this hey, do this, like this very patriarchal vibes. Just do this because this is what I said.
Yeah, power, communication.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if that's something that we should carry. Like it's best if we come from a place of, hey, do you know why you're doing this? It's to realize that your sister is just like you, a human being. And you know why? As growing up as Filipinos, we really value oneness in our dialect. We call it kapwa. You and I are one. We always have. We've carried this sense of oneness way back in the past. Like you and I are one. It was tested at some point. I don't want to go to that rabbit hole why it was tested, but that value of kapwa was something that the reason why my parents are telling me to give way to others, give way to my sister, or probably the reason why they wanted me to study nursing, it's probably because there's a huge intent of them wanting to be able to, hey, maybe my friends would be proud of me because my son is now abroad and studying nursing and studying money at home. There's
Hmm.
probably that because like it's a nice thing because like probably my parents just have this own rejection that they experience from their parents.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it makes me wonder if they were rejected, why were they rejected in the first place? So they have their own wounds that they're passing on to the
right.
next generation.
A lot of people in this country, I think, have experienced, and mine too. It's different, but it's not so different. As parents, you want your kids to have great lives. You want them to become the best version of themselves possible and to be happy. And you might also have some of your own selfish things you want. Like you said, you want your friends to you want to feel proud that you are a good parent. I mean, it's all intertwined. And we're also not that aware of some of the things that have been wired into us. We're just repeating things that we didn't really think very much about. So for example, is it really good for the culture to have this thing where we're expecting our kids to take care of us by the time we're in our late 30s so that we stop working? I don't think it's really good sometimes because if you are in the workforce or you're in your 20s, you're earning and you feel super obligated to send everything home, like you may not be that may really limit you in your ability to invest in yourself. And if you conversely, if somebody had the freedom to invest in growing themselves during their 20s, by the time they're in their 30s, they might actually be exponentially more valuable in the world and be able to help their families in not just financially, but also knowledge and experience and come back and mentor the nephews. And there's a lot of, I think it actually holds the culture down because we're putting a ball and chain around the ankles of a lot of people because they're being held back from investing in themselves because they feel so obligated to send everything home. And I don't think that's really good when you zoom out. But how would we break it? The only way you're going to break it is as parents to look at it, think about it, and say, wait a minute, that's probably not good. I'm not going to do that to my kids. And like for me, I've chosen to my mom homeschooled me. I went further and I unschooled my kids, but I've been really intentional about not forming an idea in my mind of who I think my kids should be because there's no potential for them to disappoint me. There's no potential for them they can choose, and I'm just going to help them. I'm going to support them. So does that, is there anything there that would connect with what you, if you agree or disagree with my view, but is there anything you could say to people from here that might relate with you, that just to,
Yeah.
what, how do you think we could break some of these things that are negative if we're accidentally hurting our kids by not, by confusing them, or we're telling them what to do? Like, what do you think we could do to change the cycle?
I agree to a certain degree wherein, hey, there's a point in your life as a son, as a daughter of your parents that, hey, you have to invest in yourself and grow, because the only way to grow is to, like, the only way to give back to your parents or to your family is to grow. I'm going to be vulnerable here. This is probably why I got sidetracked earlier, because like when it was in my lowest of lows, wherein I couldn't get in touch with my kids anymore. Like I was parentally alienated. Right. I'm playing the victim. Oh my God. I got myself alienated. That would be a right term, I guess. I have to reach out to a deeper wisdom inside of me. And it always goes back to oneness, to like oneness of, if only at that point of time, the mother of my kids, my ex at that time, embodied the value of kapwa, embodied the value of oneness. If only we wouldn't be living life as if we're a broken family. We would be living life, hey, there's this mission that you have to go to, and you have your wisdom or your ways of thinking of managing your family is limiting us, and it's putting us in a loop of drama, a victim, a rescuer, a persecutor, going around in circles. If we think that way, we know that we are one and we are not separate, then let's not be broken. Just go to that mission of getting more wisdom, educating yourself, empowering yourself, so that when you're back into the Philippines or wherever you have
Yeah.
traveled to, whatever journey you've been, you're capable of giving more.
So
Like
you,
if you're going back to our families, like there comes a time when we really have, if we feel if we're really that empty, our wisdom or our knowledge or our skills or our bank accounts are really that empty, right? Because of just supporting others, like that carrying that obligation of giving to them, then if you're going to think about it 10 years from now, are you still going to do it? Are you still going to keep your like self? Are you going to lock it up? Are you going to lock your dreams up and just stop yourself from growing, and
yeah,
not, and stop yourself, keep on rejecting yourself, carrying that wound of of carrying that wound of rejection in the past, because your parents was probably rejected by their parents, and you're carrying this wound of self-rejection and stopping yourself from growing by not investing in yourself.
yeah,
You have to realize that. You have to be aware. The key is to be aware that, hey, by giving or unconsciously obligating myself to whatever obligations that my parents
mhm,
are asking from me,
yeah,
by doing that, I'm rejecting myself.
yeah,
I'm rejecting my couple, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. I'm always rejecting them. If you're carrying that always, that self-rejection, you're going to send it back to the next generation. We're going to
wow,
teach that sense of rejecting, self-rejection over and over again. The cycle repeats. So what I would invite, I guess, is to think, or to be aware to the very least, that let's stop rejecting ourselves, right? Invest in ourselves, grow.
yeah. That was really powerful what you just said, and I had never really thought about it that way. But if I can say it back to you, you're saying that when someone, and in this case, it's our parents, are obligating us to do something that we don't feel aligned with, to accept that obligation and to impose it on ourselves is actually self-rejection. And that by continuing to do that, we're just pushing ourselves down. We're ignoring what we really want. We're doing the same thing to us that we feel like they're doing. We're part of it. Like we're self, and that's actually, it's a disservice to everyone around us that we care about by doing that as well. Is that fair? What you said?
Yeah, definitely.
That's
Like
powerful.
if you're constantly obligating yourself with sending money, and you're not like,
Al-
please spend
Aligned
your
with it.
80%, yes, 80% of the money that you, like, for a lack of a better number, I guess, like 80% of the money or 100% of the money you're sending to your
Yeah.
family, instead of just splitting it, and 50% could be spent on your
Yeah.
self-education or self-actualization, then, or it's a disservice to your family. Like you have to grow yourself first,
I
so that
totally
you'll be
agree.
able to give more
Yeah.
to your family.
Powerful. Really good stuff. Thank you. So you've talked quite a bit about this concept of kapwa and oneness, and I'd love to hear like more about how did you discover what has been your journey of self-discovery to understand these things about yourself and honestly anything you want to talk about. I'm just curious to hear more about that. Like how did you discover these ideas?
It's probably not ideas, like it's just embedded in all of us humans, and we just have different terms for this one. I think I'm getting this right, but this was in one of the coaching sessions that I've had. It's the word Ubuntu, right? Like it's pretty
Mhm.
much the same with Kapwa. You and I are one. And the reason the first time I was able to really embody this feeling was in an interesting time in 2020. You actually helped me in that times when I was like sending messages to people because I had this kind of spiritual awakening, and because I was feeling one with everything. Like I wasn't on streams, I wasn't on anything, but there's this set of habits that I was having and optimizing myself and whatnot. And for some reason, it just happened, and I was one with everything. It was like taking psychedelics without psychedelics. It was just
Wow.
that. Like some people say it's an awakening, spiritual awakening, but it was just one with everything, and it made me feel that hey, we're all connected. What's the point of this? All this play of what's the purpose of this sense of separation? What's the purpose of separating ourselves from each other? It's there's something, but like I should explore this sense of oneness with everyone. And one book led to another, and I discovered this kapwa word,
Mm,
which actually what we're using, and a lot of people are creating communities about it.
nice. Meet communities about kapwa here in the Philippines.
it it's still something that I'm exploring, but there's this kapwa collective podcast that I've listened to,
Cool.
and I'm diving deep into that. But if we're just going to turn it into an English, like it's just an English term, it's oneness. Like
We're all
we
the
are all
same.
one anyways. Yeah, we're all
We're
the
all,
same.
yeah, I've experienced a direct understanding of that in the last couple of years with mushrooms. That's so I think I understand, but it's hard to tell other people how they could understand. But I also feel if everybody did understand, it would change the world in
And
instantly.
there's always this conversation, right? Like when if all people in the world would be taking mushrooms, like all the violence, all these things
Mm,
that's happening right now would just be gone, right? But
agree.
like this is just our narrative as human beings. There's something that we need to explore. And to the very least, what I could give value to the audience right now is just stop rejecting yourself. If you feel like you're limited to reach out for that dream because you have these obligations that you're carrying, at least to the very least, just be aware that every time you're not growing yourself, every time you're keeping yourself stuck and you're just escaping somewhere because, hey, I've done the work from 9 to 5 for the week and let me just hang out with my friends, go to a bar, or just watch a teleserie, watch several movies that
Netflix and chill.
inculcate, yeah, indoctrinate drama, indoctrinate that sense of separation inside of us, or reinforce rather, then you're doing a disservice to your family. Like it's nice to be with family, but hey, like we need to
Okay,
stand up for them.
let's talk about the growth because you're painting a picture of an alternate choice of, if I'm making using my own words, it sounds like you're talking about a different path where you do something different with your free time. And you mentioned about growing yourself. So what do you do? What have you done? How did you discover that path? And what would you recommend for other people?
It started with that sense of not enoughness, but knowing that is this really something that I'm going to carry for the rest of my life? Feed that feeling of not enough. Why is it that when I play games, it's not like I'm playing games because I'm not enough. I'm playing games because I'm just having fun. Why not do this when I'm writing? Like I'm writing because I'm having fun. I'm enough when I'm writing. I'm enough when I'm growing myself. I'm
So,
enough when I'm conversing with someone, right?
so what did you do? And I totally relate with that, where I felt stuck and I felt like, I want more of a feeling of progress or growth and don't really know how to get it. And then I finally discovered, okay, I can actually do things to make myself feel like I'm getting better. But what did you, if you were starting with this feeling of not enoughness, and then you knew that there was a good feeling when you were growing or learning, like how did you build habits? What are your main ways of growing yourself?
Like, of course, there's the habit of meditation, which helps me like really have that skill of self awareness that made me help me become aware that carrying this sense of not enoughness, or like I'm not enough, this script, this belief of not enough, it made me become aware that, hey, I'm living my life as a victim. If I'm living my life as a victim and there's this conflicting identity in me because I really love video games. And when you're a video game player, or if you're a gamer, you're not a victim. You're just like slaying the dragon
Yeah.
or like
You're the hero.
completing a quest, right? You're a hero. So it's not because you don't have enough, it's because you are enough. And
Right.
you just enjoy navigating, exploring life as who you are as a hero, right? It could be you've lost the princess and you just want to save the princess. That's one narrative that we can think of. But the narrative of me as a gamer is in my game, in my view of the world right now, is like it's a game of creation, creating opportunities for myself. That's why the more I expand my understanding of the world through books, through courses, through masterminds, the more I am able to create realities, new opportunities. I'm able to coach myself towards the challenges that I'm experiencing. And the more I overcome those challenges, the more that I become better as a creator. The more
Nice.
that I become better as a creator, the more that I can cultivate this sense of creatorhood inside of me and create a world wherein, or create, to the varieties that I'm working on right now, is to create a community where we have the sense of oneness instead of not enoughness. We have the sense of wholeness inside of us. We're not living in our shadows anymore. We're not living in the illusion of not enough. We're living in a world wherein, hey, if we are enough, then every single moment is a gift. Every single moment is something that we are grateful for. And if we are grateful for every single moment, then we could interact with each other by giving gifts to each other. And sadly, it's just the narrative that we're working, or the collective is having right now. There's a sweet balance for me. This is my view of the world. There's a sweet balance of just playing this game as a creator of my
Right.
own experiences in life.
Nice. Hey, Alan Watts talked about, I've heard him talk about, you could see everything in life as a game. And at first that sounds not good or maybe a little scary, but you could also think of it in a really positive way. And I like seeing everything as how long did you spend as a hardcore gamer, by the way?
Oh, I could remember the first time I was able to like hold my remote control from a family computer. Like I was probably 2+ years old back then when I was first sent to, and it was like Mario, and oh my god, this is a really nice game. Like jump and eating mushrooms is interesting. The coincidence of things, but yeah.
Uh, Coincidence? What are some of the things you learned from, do you think, I think my son has learned so much from gaming. What about you? Is there any big parts of life that you've learned from gaming?
Oh, like the one gift that the gaming identity that I have had is like everything is figure outable. This is a word that the word that Marie Forleo has mentioned, but everything is figure.
Yeah,
You can level up. Just find a way to level up. Find a way to go to that castle and defeat the boss, not your boss, but the boss of whatever realm it may be.
those are
Maybe
beautiful
fuck the
life
boss.
principles. Maybe
Yeah,
I
fuck
love
the boss. Right?
I love those too.
Be interesting. Yeah, that would be an interesting game for Mario again.
Being able to approach life from a perspective of I can figure anything out, that's so powerful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Like
leveling up and just constantly making yourself better. These are core gaming principles, right?
because you're not coming from a place of, hey, I'm leveling up because this is me. I'm a really small man, right? I'm leveling up because I just enjoy leveling up. I just enjoy, hey, defeating monsters, or if you have
Yeah.
some inner monsters, like just defeat them and or probably do something to them. Like it's time to deal with.
Yeah, and I think anybody who's a gamer, if you understand why gaming is so attractive to us as humans, it's because that's hardwired in us. We want progress, we want learning, we want mastering new challenges. We actually like it when we feel like there's something scary and unknown that we then understand and master. Like that's the hero's journey, right? And what if we could approach every day of our lives the same way we approach a game? And with that kind of confidence, hey, I'm not afraid of dying. I'm just going to run this one more time and learn something new every single time and get better and level up. And I think we can approach life exactly that way. And yeah, it's beautiful. Very cool.
Yeah, definitely.
So, with our time left, what are some other stories that you think you might want to share with people around just either struggles or times in your life when you've grown a lot, or just places that you've reached in life that you want to share with people? Just any realizations or anything else you had prepared that you want to share, we can still talk about.
Just presence, really. Like, presence matters a lot. Like, I've been practicing more coaching these days, and that sense of presence would allow you to be aware if you're living in the realm of your shadows, like your shadows, your illusions, or your ghosts of the past. It could be the ghosts of your ancestors, like, to be the ghost of the collective that we're trying to push on as a narrative in our daily lives. And when we're not present, we tend to have this sense of wanting, getting, needing, grabbing, feeling, or whatever those that makes us feel or reinforce that sense of not enoughness.
Yeah.
Or when you're present and you're aware, if is your shadow running you, or is your gift running you? Is your hero, your gamer inside of you running you? You know that, hey, I am enjoying this very present moment. So why not just give? Why not just play with the person that you're in front of? Or why not just hug the boss? Because like he has his own shadows as well. And we're probably now living in a world wherein we're constantly healing each other. Because like we carry this sense of presence inside of us. And that presence of giving gifts to each other,
Yeah.
giving gifts to our couple brothers and sisters.
So you've talked a bit about healing, and you mentioned the phrase "hug the boss" a couple of times. I deeply believe in a lot of the things you're talking about. Is like we're actually all the same. The illusion of separation is just that, it's an illusion, and I deeply feel these things are these are correct concepts. But I think also a lot of people will be like, "What are you talking about?" And in the cultures we live in, we do have a lot of separation. We don't touch very much. And I also read somewhere humans need at least 8 hugs a day to be in an optimal state. It's super important. Why do you keep using this phrase, hug the boss? Tell me more what that means.
A thought just came up into my mind because of this coaching session that I had earlier the past couple of days. And it's with a friend who just recently had her kid, and her kid always cries. Right. She lives in Iceland, and like she has this different set of values, and she's also into spirituality and all these things. And she when her kid cries, she told me that ever she just hugs her kid, it's not just like she's comforting the kid. For some reason, it's not her kid that needs comfort. It's her who's being comforted by the kid. So there's this pureness from that kid that's being sent to the mother, and vice versa. It's that play of purity just through a hug, right? That's being given all these times. Hey, if we have this sense of purity inside of us and sense of healing, a
Yeah.
hug can really heal. Like, sense of touch can really heal.
It's funny how I grew up in the US where masculinity, like kind of the masculine culture, it's not that easy for men to be vulnerable, to be in touch with our emotions, show them, talk about them, ask for a hug. Not really wired into our culture, I think most of us, but I'm learning how much it helps. Go ahead. You have a thought. Go. Can
Well,
see.
there's another view of, hey, I'm a masculine man, so I don't need a hug. I'm a man, right? I like if I am angry, then I'm just going to suck it up. And the tendency of us sucking up our anger, we just push it down in our lower realms and
Yeah.
just keep it there. And for some reason, we carry this sense of shame of hugging each other because I'm a man and I don't need to hug another man. I'm ashamed of hugging. I'm ashamed of feeling vulnerable with another man hugging. And I don't subscribe to that anymore.
And why
The
not?
reason
What
why,
changed? Go ahead.
because if for masculine people, I guess, this is just my own opinion, but for people who you don't have to be a man, you can be a woman too. Like,
Totally
whenever you
agree.
have this masculine energy inside of you, you have better access to anger. And that anger is really powerful. That anger can destroy. It could either destroy you, and some men like even destroy themselves through their anger. Like I was at that point at some time when my anger destroyed me, that I sucked it up like to the lower realms, that I even watch porn, and porn is reinforcing that shame inside of me that, hey, like I'm disgusting and this and that. There's this constant narrative of illusion, of aggression, of dominance that the porn industry is probably, I'm not like, it's just be conscious with porn, but the porn industry is pushing onto us, and it creates that sense of separation wherein the shame now is within our body. But we forgot to really know or really own what anger is. What if we don't suck up our anger? What if we just be present with our anger? What if we've been taught that anger is something that shouldn't be placed on a corner? What if we for, forget
Right.
the word, don't be angry,
Yeah.
be angry and be present? What if that was the script that was given to us when we're angry? Now anger is different, right? Like anger is that light and fire that heals us. And if you carry that sense of anger when you're angry with someone, and for some reason, and if we're running the script, this is just hypothetical. If you're running that script, you're angry with your boss, and your boss is angry at you, and you both, for example, if I'm your employee and you're my boss, we both carry that belief of be present with your anger, and we know we have this context that our presence of anger heals us. Our value of kapwa, of oneness, heals us. Our light, our anger would heal us just through hugs, which is interesting. A
Do
hypothetical
you
scenario, but they're very interesting.
do you think that so I've formed a belief or a way of looking at emotions that I think seems to work pretty well. I think I got this from some people you also listen to, like Tony Robbins and some other people. But one of the ways I look at emotions now is as being a very valuable and what's the word, just very functional part of us that is seems like its function is to make us more aware. Like, hey, pay attention. Sometimes they're sharp, right? Anger is sharp, shame is sharp, like guilt is sharp. And if we learn how to listen to them and process them properly or be present and notice them, that they're just there to tell us something and pay attention to this thing, process it, and just release the emotion. Because if you do it, if you really process it properly, understand the message, sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes silence. Sometimes it takes really some quiet time with yourself to figure it out. But once you do and you release it, it doesn't cause you problems anymore. And hugs do seem like this tool to accelerate that sometimes in many ways, if especially if there's interpersonal problems with somebody else. But you do need both people to have that philosophy and agree to it ahead of time. Because if you're pissed
Yeah,
at each other,
definitely. Like
you can't force the other person to hug you when they're mad at you at work.
it
Does
works, but
that go
just
ahead?
laughing because I was just laughing because there are times when my partner and I, Niz, like
Yeah,
we fight and I'm angry at her. Like she doesn't carry that belief like, hey, be present with your anger. But for some reason, when she hugs me, it's like
it works.
you have this balloon and
Deflates.
like
Yeah,
it deflates, like
yeah.
just a sense of touch from another. That's probably why when where other people are angry, don't touch me, and there's just wanting to create this boundary towards another. But
It
it's
works
un
with you.
it
It works with
yeah,
me.
it works with
If somebody hugs me, if I'm upset and somebody hugs me, like I will definitely relax. But I know other people, like actually Gladys, I think it's getting better. We're figuring it out. But when she's really pissed, if I try to hug her, it's not going to work because she's got her walls up.
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But it's interesting. Yeah, interesting.
You
There's
you
just so much to learn as humans. Really, we're still like probably not at the tip of the iceberg. It's like the very snowflake of the iceberg as humans. It's
I was
really
just talking to
interesting.
my son last night about that, where that's been one of the most incredible parts of getting on a journey of self learning and personal development is the more I learn about myself, the more layers there are. And then I keep thinking, wow, I'm so happy with and proud of the progress and the learning that's gotten me to who I am now. And I'm really, yeah, I'm proud of who I've become compared to who I was a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever. But then, and then I think I ask myself, I wonder, what I'm going to discover that I don't know next. And sometime soon that it always happens where I'm like, wow, there's just so much more complexity there that I still don't understand. And yeah, really powerful.
Yeah,
I
like
think, go ahead.
our our external reality or the people around us like reinforces what wisdom we have in ourselves if we truly own like that shadow inside of us. Then if that gift of a shadow of our shadow is presence or love or like a really supportive partner, then that will manifest into your reality. So the key, I guess, is to just be present and be aware that you have a shadow. probably holding you back or
Hmm.
probably shouting at you
Yeah.
through your external reality as another person telling you that, hey, learn me, hug me, embrace me, allow me to be present in your life, and I will give you the gift. I will give you probably a partner. I will give you the boss that will help you become more abundant. I will give you a kid that you've been asking for. Just be present with me. I'm your shadow. And it's a constant, like our external reality is a constant reinforcement that, hey, we have our shadows, our illusions of what the world is. And our inner world is really important to really embrace and at the same time to co-create with one another. Our inner world is just a reflection of what we've learned from the external world. And we have that power to steer that reflection of our inner world. Our external world, we can only influence it to a certain degree, but we have a power to steer that
Yeah.
inner
The inner
world
world.
reflection.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the biggest messages I would want to share with people is just that no matter what situation you're in, no matter what the external world seems to be for you, the way you're seeing it or whatever your external reality seems to be, and whether you like it or you don't like it, let's say you hate it, we all have the power to decide the direction the inner person goes. We can really learn and grow and become someone that is then capable of changing the outside. I think that's the way I look at it. It's like you can't expect to just change the outside world before you change the inside world. First of all, I just want to say thank you for coming here and being vulnerable and sharing parts of your story that you think would help other people. And before I ask those final questions, is there anything you're working on that people could support you on, or anything you would, if they heard this and they wanted to connect with you, is there anywhere that you would direct them?
I'm currently working on a live stream, like a season on. We're going to flip the stones, open doors, pull some cards, or if that's going to happen, which would be opening doors to or just embracing the shadow of each emotion. So I'm going to be inviting other people who are pretty adept in exploring these emotions or adept in shadow work. And we're going to talk about 12 emotions from shame up to love and like shame, guilt, apathy. There's a bunch of emotions. So the first season is coming up sometime around May,
Okay.
and not the first season, the first episode. It it's still in the works, but it's going to be in franzgarsula.com/RFL, and it's
Okay.
going to be there. Yeah, the first season.
Awesome. All right. We'll link to that in the show notes, and maybe we can do another conversation by then and more. All right. If you were speaking to somebody who wants to take more ownership of personal growth, we've talked about that quite a bit in this conversation. What's one resource? Could be a book, YouTube channel, an influencer. So just what's somebody that you've, or a place that you've learned from that you would, that's helped you emerge as a better version of yourself that you would like to share with other people?
I have this props right here. Like I this may be inverted on your end, but
No,
like
it's
it's
not. You can read it.
you can read it, right?
Yeah.
It's Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And the key insight of this book is like you have the capability to change your self-image. Like he talks about these people that he like change their faces with like their plastic surgery. And for some reason, even when they're super beautiful or super handsome, they still don't interact to that. Like they still feel not enough inside of
They
but
still don't.
when he yeah, when he just encourages others to change their self-image, then like how they interact with others changes. So and I wanna bring it to this point wherein like if you carry that identity of a victim, then that's how that's the reality that you're going to be experiencing. That the
Yeah.
victim reality or
Right.
situations that you're going to experience. So I would recommend this book because like it will empower you to choose an identity, choose a self-image of you, and be able to reflect it back to the world.
Nice. Psycho-cybernetics. Great recommendation. Thank you. What's something that you feel like what's something you're still working on, something you're focused intentionally on improving about yourself right now, or something you're still struggling with?
And this is something that I'm really struggling with because as all people do, like they have this inner critic, right? Like we all have our inner critics. I call my inner critic like Zonky because it's like a donkey who's like shouting over and over again, like, like something like that. And I just couldn't understand him. And for what I know that he is telling something. And whenever I become present with that inner critic, for some reason, a sense of enthusiasm comes up in me, a sense of wanting to ride, and the donkey morphs into probably a unicorn. Like first, like from that word enthusiasm, like enthusiasmos, the Greek word enthusiasmos, meaning to be inspired, to be possessed by a god. For some reason, if we're just present with our inner critic, with us, with yourself, you could be inspired, for
Nice.
lack of like better word, that you could be possessed by a god, possessed by your higher self, by spirit itself, by life,
But
and you can reflect it back as to the world as completion, wholeness.
you've talked quite a bit about presence, and I think I should have asked a little bit more about that, but how could you explain if somebody doesn't know how to do that? Because I've had a inner critic, that voice that's always talking to you, and when you're talking to yourself about yourself negatively, that's the inner critic. So you're saying being present with your inner critic, but how does somebody go about increasing their ability to be present? What does that look like? How do people do it?
On my end, to the very least, since I've been meditating for a very long time, and meditation really helps you to be present, helps you to be aware with whatever it is that you're experiencing. So that awareness encourages like presence. So now these days, like even just a few breaths, I tend to be more present. And that's something that I'm struggling still. But like it'd be nice if I'll be more present all the time and to carry that vision of the future at the same time, hold that presence. That'd be an interesting place to be in to navigate in the world. But that means that you have this capability to flow to that vision because you are present. And since you carry, I'm going to bridge this to psycho cybernetics. Cybernetics means steersman. We have the capability to be captains of our soul, right? So presence allows us to be captains of our soul, captains of our life, captains of our destiny.
I had no idea that's what that word meant. Kybernetics or
It's
cybernetics means
yeah,
the
cyber,
steersman?
yeah, steersman.
Really? Okay, wow,
Yeah,
I just totally learned something new. So that's what that book name meant. It's like being able to steer your own psychology, something like that?
yeah.
Okay, you just taught me something. I know that book, known it forever, didn't know what it meant. Okay, amazing. So, if somebody does not have a practice of meditation, and they've probably heard lots of people saying by now, it's a good idea and it's benefited me, right? You've heard that over and over again from people. I hope you've heard that. But what have been, let's close it up after this answer, but what have been some of the ways that you built that habit? What have you found effective? How could somebody start?
There are different triggers, situations why people like just dive deep into meditation. Like on my end, it was just like that trying to learn manifestation. And then it led me to meditating more because, okay, if you have this vision of the future and just hold it in your mind, then you could go there. But for yourself to have this or to really program this vision of the future, you have to put yourself in an alpha state. And course, that brings you to just being present with your breath for several minutes and bring yourself back to your breath all the time. And now you're now in the alpha state and you can start manifesting. But to the very least, go with what flows in you. If you need meditation or not, it could be that you don't need meditation. You just need to be more prayerful, right? Like a prayer is
Yeah.
meditative enough. Yeah, definitely. It's super meditative. I could just remember flashbacks during my childhood in Santo Niño. Like I just go to this adoration chapel and just pray. Not because there's something that I don't have, I just pray. It's just nice to stay there. But yeah, just prayer would be a gateway, but there are other gateways too. Could be psychedelics. Yeah.
Indeed. All right. Awesome. Franz, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm looking forward to future conversations. And also thank you for the support that you've provided already and just like your support with what we're trying to do with Emerge. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Me too. Thank you so much for this opportunity to get interviewed and give value to your audience.
Thank you so much for listening to this interview on Emerge Stories. We really hope that something here sparked your curiosity or maybe helped you think about something in your life just from a little bit of a different angle or perspective, maybe opened up your mind to something you might be able to do in your life to take more ownership of your own learning and growth. That's the goal of this show. So please join our community, like and share, and tell other people about these stories if they're meaningful for you. And thanks so much for being here.